Welcome to the Animal Training Academy podcast show. I'm your host, Ryan Cartlidge, and I'm passionate about helping you master your animal training skills using the most positive and least intrusive approaches. Here at ATA, we understand that navigating the vast challenges you encounter in training requires a comprehensive base of knowledge and experience. It's common to face obstacles and rough patches on your journey that can leave you feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Therefore, since 2015, we've been on a mission to empower animal training geeks worldwide. We've aided thousands in developing their skills, expanding their knowledge, boosting their confidence, and maximizing their positive impact on all the animal and human learners they work with. We are excited to do the same for you. Simply visit www.atamember.com, join our vibrant community, and geek out with us. And of course, in the meantime, enjoy this free podcast episode as we explore new ways to help you supercharge your training skills, grow your knowledge, and build your confidence, so that you can craft a life that positively impacts every learner you encounter. But we will start today's episode where I'm thrilled to welcome back to the show for part 2 of our conversation, the wonderful Sara Brueske. Now, if you haven't listened to the first part of our conversation, you can find it in the previous episode on whatever app you're listening to the show on. In that episode, we explored Sara's journey in getting started with training and positive reinforcement and what led her to her current project with the Happy Dog Lodge, which we're going to talk a ton more about today. Part 1's definitely worth a listen. However, if you haven't listened to it yet, you are, of course, very welcome to start here with part 2, where you'll still gain plenty of insights to help you grow your skills, knowledge, and confidence in animal training and the business side of things today. So let's dive in. Sara, thank you so much for hanging out with us twice here on the Animal Training Academy podcast show.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. Excited to have another conversation.
Yeah, look, and I guess people who know you might be expecting us to talk about frisbee or disc or something today, but
some sort of sport. Usually that's what I talk about.
We're going to talk about business today. I think, Sara, that, well, firstly, before I say that, just acknowledge that some of our listeners don't run businesses, but a significant amount do. And we are trainers. We're not business people. So, well, not all of us anyway. Some of us are, but it's hard. And I think people who don't run businesses don't necessarily, I mean, how do you explain what a rose smells like if you've never smelled a rose, right? There's just so many considerations and so many hats to wear and so many decisions. I don't know about you, Sara, but I get decision fatigue constantly. Pricing, marketing, customer service, admin, bookkeeping. I mean, there's so many hats to wear. And I know that for our audience who do run businesses, there's so many challenges there for them, especially marketing and pricing. How do we figure out what our value is? Especially, when we're running a business where we want to just help all of the dogs and help all of the people and help them all of the time. Sometimes we give our services away for free, and then that's, while admirable in certain respects, can significantly influence the sustainability of what we're doing. So there's so many things to talk about, but we're going to talk about your business today and spend a little bit of time on another challenge that lots of dog trainers and animal trainers who set up their own businesses have, and that's thinking about, how do I want to run my business? Do I go to clients' houses? Do clients come to my houses? Do I run classes? Does the client do the training? Do I do the training? Do I run an online animal training membership? There's so many different ways to figure out how you can provide the best value for your customers. So let's get started by telling the listeners about your new venture, new being defined as 2 years for you, the Happy Dog Lodge. Can you share a little bit about what you're up to with this project?
Yeah, so I will say this is my first time talking in depth about this. So, like you mentioned earlier in the introduction, my wheelhouse has always been the training side of things. I am a trainer first and foremost. I normally train dog trainers specifically, and a lot of my subject matter is on sport dog training. And so that's what I'm the most comfortable talking about. And so this is going to be kind of a learning journey for both of us, which is great because nothing better than working on or talking to somebody about what you're currently working on. So Happy Dog Lodge, as I mentioned in the last episode, it kind of came from this moment of panic in my life where I had the choice of either selling our house we had just bought and uprooting our family again, or finding a way to be able to keep all of my dogs. And we did that by buying a boarding facility. And so this boarding facility was already established. The owners were retiring. They were just doing boarding and grooming. That's it. And so the building, the facility itself was massive. And boarding took up most of that facility. They had, I think, 60 runs when I bought it. And then the grooming salon. And they, the books that they showed me before I bought the business and the building weren't that impressive. And it just stemmed from the owner just doing enough to keep the doors open because she was on the verge of retiring. And so it was a little scary walking into this situation where I was buying a business and a building where I could see the potential. I've been in the industries long enough where I kind of had a general idea where I wanted to head. I will say that I wanted to head this direction in maybe 5 years from now, but a little bit early is just fine. It's just the way it goes sometimes. And so it was a little intimidating walking in and hoping that this small town that we now called our home, because luckily this place was just 10 miles from my house, like the universe just aligned perfectly for the solution. But I was hoping that this small town that we live in, which is about an hour north of the Twin Cities metro area here in Minnesota, would be supportive of the services and the quality of training and daycare and everything that I wanted to bring them. And as a dog trainer, I was worried about the pitfalls of, your traditional doggy daycare. As a dog trainer, learning that there's like 30 dogs running around loose together, your heart just kind of starts doing a little pitter patter. And I knew that I wanted to offer something that the other current businesses were not already offering. So walking into this, seeing this building, starting basically from scratch and creating this off-traditional dog business to serve a community that might not be quite ready for it was a little intimidating. But we went into it. I bought the building with some financial help and some guidance of some mentors of mine, which I'm very grateful to have established over my years in dog sports. And kind of went into it head on. I started 2 years ago of just me doing boarding. I was doing the grooming side without haircuts, baths, nails, ears. I was also doing our day camp program, and then was formulating what our board and train and our training options were going to be looking like as I started adding team members in. And that's where we are today. Is we offer board and trains, we offer a day school, we offer lodging, we offer grooming, we offer day camp. I have a team of 11 people that work with me and provide all of the services.
I feel like I was saying this to someone yesterday, and I don't know if it's true or not, but logically it makes sense to me that the best time, not the best time, but there is value in teaching or talking about something when you're right in the thick of it, in the trenches, as you don't have this is my understanding anyway, and let me know what your thoughts are, because I can see you nodding there. You don't have what is it called? The curse of knowledge. You don't have you don't have that misalignment, misunderstanding about what people don't know. Like, it's so hard for us as dog trainers to be like, go in and share our knowledge, because if we've been doing it for a long time, are like, it's so clear to us, the ABCs, like when this happens, and then this happens. But it's so hard for people to see. And I think with business as well, like if you're like 2 years in, and there's so many things that you just talked about then that I think business owners have to tackle: family, work-life balance, which you didn't say, but for the listeners of this show, that was, I know, background information, that was part of your decision there. Risk mitigation, like I view, Sarah, like business like gambling, really. You're just betting on yourself.
Yep. And on your ideas and your ability to problem solve and your ability to be adaptable and yeah, it is gambling. I think about that all the time. Yeah, actually.
What, in that specific frame, like gambling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like
right.
every time you take a chance and you change something, so not just the initial idea or the purchasing of the building and pouring my entire life into this, but every little change I make, and not only is it gambling now just with myself and the people that invested in this business with me, but it's also gambling with my team members. Like I have a team of really great people that are relying on my ideas and my follow through and my management to be successful. And that adds a whole, I remember when I first hired my intern, I was like, okay, you're my employee now. And I'm like, oh, wait, I have a full-time employee. I have to actually make sure this stuff works. And it's not just me, relying on this to work, but like they quit their job and everything to be here.
Yeah, that's huge, and we haven't really got like amazing contractors around the globe, but because our business is online, we don't actually have any. I've got one Kiwi working for us who's a contractor, but and we have had employees in the past. But I was listening to a podcast yesterday just about New Zealand context, and we've been in this really uncomfortable recession-y type space as a country now for quite a while, and the poor business owners who are like have to make a decision about the sustainability of their business long term, and that requires the decision of letting people go.
Mm-hmm.
There's the ethical and values based thought process around, Christ, this is that person's life. Like
That's a lot. It's
it is a
it's a
lot,
lot.
yeah.
And if you haven't like been in that space before, like, I think last episode I talked a lot about, being willing to take a chance on new ideas and stepping outside your comfort zone and having the confidence to do that for yourself. And I think a lot of professional dog trainers, when they are just working for themselves, that's a really good mindset to have, right? Take the little bit of risks, do your due diligence and your research, obviously, and ask others that have done these things before you to make sure that you're not going down some weird path and you know the pros and cons and you've weighed both equally. But being willing to do that change, because that might be the change that helps your business take that step forward. However, that comes with a lot more weight now that I have a team relying on me, because I was talking specifically about our format for group classes. And what I want to move into is a more modular type of group class, but that's going to change not just my trainer's schedule, but it's going to change their commission, how much they're going to be able to make. How do I balance out their pay and change that to match and ensure that they're still getting the value out of teaching classes? And then you got to think about burnout. So if we change to that, now they're not going to be necessarily teaching the same set group of students each time. And that itself can be so reinforcing for trainers because they see the progress of the individual students as they move through like a 6-week class. And then that student comes back for the next secret class and you get bonded with these teams and you really grow. If we move to more of an open enrollment type of a system, are they going to have the same satisfaction? Are they going to see the same students over and over and over again and see that progress and know they're making a difference? And what is that going to happen to their burnout rate, right? So burnout is a real thing with trainers. And so I have to balance that out constantly. And not only that, but with our day camp program, same thing. How do I ensure that my trainers aren't getting burnt out doing day camp every single day and having that flexibility of when they do come to me and say, hey, I need something different, being able to adapt that. And so it's not just changing the programs themselves and taking those risks, but being able to be flexible and know that the changes I'm making have real impacts that are outside of just the initial surface ones, but looking into the mental health even of the people on my team and how it's going to affect them that way.
So how do you make that decision?
Pros and cons, honestly, mostly. And I talk to my team
Right.
a lot. Like I talk to them a lot. I don't make a decision that impacts anybody else without consulting as many people on my team as I possibly can about that decision. And not just consulting them to consult them, but consult them and really thinking about what they say and what they're not saying, and the intention behind what they're saying. And so it's really, I strive at my business to be the guiding force, but really propelling my team ahead of me and thinking of their needs first. Because if my team's not there, either mentally or even if they're just not 100% on board with something, then the idea is just not going to work. Because if it was me executing the idea and my risk with that idea and me alone getting the fallout, it'd be easy to make those decisions, as I have been for the majority of my career. But now I have to think about everybody else's strengths and weaknesses and what they're willing to do and what they like to do and what they don't like to do, and making sure I'm balancing that out. So communication is really the most important aspect of all this. And so we have a few meetings in our future to make sure this group class idea is going to work out. Once I kind of puzzle out some ideas and more framework for that, I've already discussed it with all of our team members, and they have questions, obviously. But I want to make sure they're 110% on board before I make any changes to it.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes that's the easy decision. Then you've got to figure out like what words to use when you describe it to potential clients, and how much you're going to charge for it, and where you're going to talk about it, and all of those things. I just recently just became, I don't know, aware of something that other people know and I just didn't for 41 years of my life, or like.
I love when that happens. You're like, wait, what? You all know about this?
I learned something about my dishwasher the other day. I was like, I can't remember what it was now, but it was like this feature that all dishwashers have, and I was like, and it made life easier, and I was like, God,
Wait.
But I just started to really realize, and maybe it's from running a business, and maybe it's from being a trainer, and maybe it's just from all areas of life, that confidence, because we talk about confidence a lot, and obviously that's a label, and what does that look like? Let's put that conversation aside for now and just talk about confidence, and maybe you listener have a different definition than I have, but we kind of under the umbrella have an idea of what I'm talking about. And confidence comes from many things, but one thing it comes from is being able to make decisions. And then I was listening to a podcast the other day, and from someone I respect and value their perspectives, and they were saying something similar, that comes from being able to make decisions with the best information that you have, and then being willing to go with the flow of what happens next.
Yeah, I think for me, confidence has taken the role of being able to listen to others. So I've always been yeah, I know it. I can make a decision right off the bat and like jump in both feet and be confident with the decision I made is the right one. Or if it's not the right one, at least, it'll survive until I come up with another solution. But I think, and I know, last episode I had mentioned that I don't think I would have been as good of a team leader as I am now at Happy Dog Lodge without all of those other experiences experiences that I've had in my life. And that those experiences have really allowed me to have the confidence to lead a little bit better than I would have in the past. And I'm not saying I don't have room for improvement. I absolutely do. But the confidence now has kind of made it so that my opinion is not the only one. Where before I would have just bulldozed ahead and said, no, I know what's best. You all have to just trust me. And that's not the best way to lead a team, because again, everybody's opinion matters. And the feeling of being part of this team is a lot of that. And so I think being able to step back and say, yeah, maybe I don't always know the right solution, and that input from others is more important. I think that confidence that I've gained has helped me do that versus just making the decision.
Yeah, it makes sense to, and as I think we do as humans, we hear things and try to fit them into our packaged ideas and beliefs and values. So to me that makes sense in regards to like just getting the reinforcer potentially is there's, I think there's a couple there, but one of them out of the many might be getting more information to, when you do make the decision, know that you've made the most informed decision you can. And then it's up to the local dog owners in your region to decide whether that was a good decision or not. We can come up with a great idea and put it to all of our team, and they can say, oh yeah, this is awesome, this is wonderful, yeah, and this is how it's going to work. And then we can take it out to the market, the local dog owners, and they might be like, nah, it doesn't really solve my problem. I'm not willing to give you money for that.
Right. And I have the benefit of Happy Dog Lodge having so many different facets that we can take risks with not knowing how the training community is going to take that and how our local dog training community is going to take it. And I'm very grateful for that, and that is never lost on me. And so right now, my goal is to build our training program and our group classes and get that going up and running a little bit more than it has been. So because it's not super scaled big yet, it's not really super established, and we're just kind of feeling our way around and feeling what works best for us and the dog owners in our community. It's allowing me to really kind of take the time to make those decisions. And I know you had mentioned reinforcers. The reinforcers for me are my trainer's confidence and enjoyment of each thing. So right now, everybody on my team is in a stepping stones of their journey, right? They're in a growing developmental stage of their journey. And my job as their leader is to help them grow as trainers so that maybe one day they can leave my business and go start their own business. Like that would be absolutely amazing if they did that. And so my job is to help them grow as trainers. And so each time I put forth an idea for a conversation, or whether we do it or not, I want to see them find the joy in training. I want them to find the benefit in training, and I want them to be asking questions and growing as trainers. And so if I have an idea that I don't feel like is going to help achieve that and help them grow in their careers, it's not an idea I'm really willing to pursue. So it's not just because, one, if they're not enjoying it and they're not getting the fulfillment out of it and they're not 100% into it, the dog owners aren't going to be either, because they're feeling that too. And so if ultimately my goal is to help dog owners and help dogs, I need to help my trainers be able to do that, because it's not me anymore very often standing in front of that group class and helping them, it's my trainers. And so my job is to come up with ideas and the tools and the services we offer that allow my trainers to grow as trainers, to be better at helping everybody in our community.
Yeah, well, hats off to you for that. I know work in organizations where that's not considered, and products are placed with a lack of, just a gap or a chasm maybe in some situations between expectations from above.
I have experienced that myself, yes.
and on the ground realities of team members. And there's a whole bunch of messiness that comes with being in that kind of space for everyone involved. Million questions about that, but we were going to talk about board and train today. And for those listening who might not understand that there are different models to doing what we do, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think the traditional view is go to a client's house, they got some problems, teach them to teach their dog a few things, take their money, grow your business, do it again and again and again. But there's an infinite number of ways that we can set up our businesses to provide value for our clients. And board and train is one that gets talked about a bit in our community, and a lot of the times this is with curiosity, because I don't think it's one necessarily that, if you looked at a pie chart of all of the way people run businesses, has a big segment of the pie frequently. So can you share with the audience a little bit about what board and train is, and what your thinking was in terms of why this might be a model that you would like to explore and that your clients would find valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing a variation of board and trains for a very long time. I've always called it puppy camp. where I take somebody's sport prospect puppies specifically into my house, and I have them, I used to do a minimum of a month and work on all the things that puppies need. So socialization, passive and active socialization, off switches, crate training, learning to settle in cars, all the things, conceptual foundation behaviors, how to learn. So luring and shaping. I would put in odor operants. So, learning to seek out a certain odor for nose work future, pretty much anything I would be doing with my own sport puppies. That's what I would do for puppy camps. And it worked out really well because, I have a very active sport dog life. I'm always going to competitions on the weekend. I go to classes during the week. My dogs are always in the vehicle with me, traveling different places. So they're learning all of those really important things. And it allowed me to help people who either weren't confident in their ability to create a confident puppy that got all the things they needed, or maybe they had a life thing come up and they've been on this waiting list for this sport puppy for 2 years, and they finally get this opportunity, but they're having knee surgery or something like that the month the puppy comes home, and they're really worried about missing out on those crucial socialization windows. So this really allowed for this program, the sport puppy camps, allowed people to kind of help their dogs set off on the right foot. The other thing that I've done with it is kind of an evaluation basis. So if somebody got a puppy specifically for a sport and they're a little bit unsure about the puppy's ability to do that sport, they would send the puppy to me. Maybe they're concerned if their home situation was the thing causing the puppy to be a little underconfident or not quite meeting up their expectations, or maybe they were putting too much pressure on the puppy. So then send the puppy to me. I would do a month-long evaluation, see how far I would get with things, and then we could problem solve what the difference was if the puppy was successful in my care, or I could give an honest evaluation where the puppy was at that point in their life, if they were going to be the candidate that this owner was going to look for. So there was a lot of purposes in the sport world for puppy camp and those board and trains, as I mentioned it. Some even other specific ones that tie a little bit more into the family dog type of a board and train. If somebody had a dog that they wanted to compete in obedience and they were really struggling with that hold and the retrieve, they could send the dog to me for a month, and I'd be able to train that hold and retrieve and then easily transfer it over to the owner. So being able to problem solve those specific skills, because we know as dog trainers, there are some dog trainers really good at teaching certain things, and we all have weaknesses on things that we're not great at teaching. And so being able to send the dog, to somebody who can teach those skills pretty reliably and then get the dog back, and then it's more likely to transfer in that case versus teaching it from scratch if you're unsure. So that's kind of where it existed in the sport dog world. When I bought Happy Dog Lodge, I wanted to open up those board and trains for more family dog skills. And the reason for that, and I know this isn't talked about in this world of training nearly as much as it is the other side of dog training, but the reality is that people are busy. And it's really hard to get that foundation work in when you have kids going to sport practice and all of this stuff. And being able to install that training and then transfer it to the owner is much more likely to be successful for those people versus them learning to carve out and being willing to carve out time during their busy days to get those quality reps in. And so I wanted to be able to offer this with the knowledge that training doesn't always transfer over and you still have client fallout. I'm dealing with it right now where we have a dog that's really struggling with a behavioral issue, and we sent home homework over the weekend because he's doing day school, so drop off in the morning, pick up in the afternoon, and they didn't do the homework, and they're doing things that are exactly opposite of our homework, and they honestly told us this at drop off this morning, and I'm just like, okay, so we have to send our follow-up emails and all of that, and really trying to explain to them that they still have to do the work even though we're doing that training. It still is much easier for me to put in that training myself or have one of my trainers put in that training themselves and then educate the client on how to continue that training, grow with that training, and maintain that training. And so our board and trains really are customized to the needs of the client and the dog, and they have features that allow the client to hopefully maintain that training. And at the worst case, they have the knowledge that the dog is capable of the training because they see videos of the dog doing the training, and that if they wanted to maintain it, they have to do that work.
So the business model initially arose for you more out of your lifestyle and acknowledging or being able to see an opportunity to help and provide value within what you're already doing. Like, it wasn't really adding anything. Did I understand that right? Like, you could just kind of take a puppy with you and...
Yeah. So the puppy camp specifically, where I'm doing all the stuff with my dog already, I might as well take somebody's puppy and get paid to do it with their dog at the same time. Yep, absolutely.
But then it's grown to be more about it providing more value to the client now. Like, I can actually get more client.
And part of that is, we talk about a lot of the not so great training facilities offering board and trains and certain guarantees with their training and all that. And clients choose that because it's convenient, right? Whether they believe that their dog can learn all these things in that short amount of time and it be foolproof, that's up to the trainer to be able to communicate that. But they choose it because it's convenient and because they have busy lifestyles and they want a dog. And yeah, we should say, well, if you don't have time to train the dog, you shouldn't get a dog at all, but that's not the reality we live in. And so by not offering a board and train or a program where I do most of that work for the client, those clients are just going to go somewhere else. And that training is not going to be good training. And it's not great for the dog. It's not great for the family. It's just not a good situation. And here, the board and trains that are offered are not ones I would typically recommend, and so it's more of people want this service. And so I should be able to provide this service, even if I don't train the same way that the traditional board and train trainers do.
And a while back, you said this isn't talked about as much in our community versus the other side, I think you said.
Yeah. So more, at least here, and where I live and where I've lived in the past, most board and train programs are e-collar based trainers. And, I'm sure there's pros and cons to that, but we don't typically have not traditional trainers offering board and train solutions.
So, because I don't, it's funny. I find my role funny, Sarah. Like, I make content about, we make a lot of content about helping dog trainers run their businesses successfully, but I'm not out there running a dog training business.
Right.
I set one up and it was like, no, don't have time for that. And so I asked the questions I'm asking her out of genuine curiosity for lack of understanding. But I was telling someone I was doing this podcast and we're going to talk about board and train, and the individuals I was talking to are positive reinforcement trainers, and I got the sense that there was a bit of stigma there. Like, they were like, "Ugh, I don't really like board and trains," and that was like, cool, great. I didn't know that. Like, I was like, I didn't even realize that was a thing. I was like, because
and it comes from
head.
the normal trainers that offer it. They guarantee certain behaviors within a 3-week program or 4-week program, and they're going to get those behaviors one way or another. And so that is the traditional board and train. And so there aren't very many companies out here that are not e-collar based or punishment based that are offering board and trains, simply because we're not going to say, yes, we guarantee this training within 3 to 4 weeks. And so for me, it's more about changing that verbiage and saying, hey, we're going to work on these things. You're going to get a daily report of your dog's progress. We expect you to also do the homework if we're sending homework home, if your dog is coming home versus staying with us. You're going to get a customized training report with videos of your dog doing the thing at the end of the program. And we're going to do a follow-up lesson after the program ends so that we can make sure that you know how to do these exercises. We also provide unlimited phone and email support on the things that we worked on for the dog's life. So if the dog has coming to us for a resource guarding issue and they did their follow-up lesson and they got their training report, and 6 months from now, they're still running into issues, they can send me an email or give me a call and be like, hey, this is what happened. How should we proceed? And at that point, I can give advice on the phone. But if I think it's warranted, I'm going to say, hey, we really need to see the dog back here for refresher training or for a follow-up lesson Or they just send me a video and I can solve it from there. And so I think that a lot of non-traditional trainers are under the stigma that a board and train guarantees behaviors, and it doesn't. It's still our job as trainers to educate our clients on what their dog needs, their actual expectations of the dog's progress, and that training in general needs to be maintained. And so there's no rule saying that we can't offer board and trains because we don't use an e-collar and we don't guarantee behaviors. And those that are thinking, yeah, but the behaviors don't actually, the training doesn't transfer to the clients, it absolutely does. So yes, they still have to start at the beginning and teach it, but just like how we generalize behaviors to different environments, right? So if I teach a downstay, I start it in my kitchen, then I generalize it to my living room, then I generalize it in the backyard, then I take it to the park, and then I take it to my dog's training school, and then I take it to wherever XYB or XYZ. It's the same thing with generalizing it to different people, right? So if I have a behavior right now, working in a resource guarding with a dog, I'm doing the foundation work. One of my other trainers is coming in behind me and doing the foundation work a step or two behind me. And then we're going to have the owner who's already doing their homework at home on the steps before that point. So we're generalizing each step of training to different people, just like we would generalize training behavior to new environments. We're generalizing to new people. So yeah, there is work that has to be done with transferring that behavior, but your client is seeing videos the entire time showing that their dog is capable of it. They just need to learn their job of it. So instead of teaching the client how to teach the dog that doesn't know anything, so you're having two subjects that don't know anything, at least the dog has an idea of what they're supposed to be doing now. And now you just have to teach the human how to get the same results out of their dog.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. It's fascinating to start to think about everything you've shared and any stigma around that in our community and why that would be, and I'll phrase what my thoughts are at you, because I think it'll be valuable for the listeners to when thinking about business. And in this podcast, I've been talking about value, like giving value. Like we talk about what our prices are going to be, and money. Business has to be more money coming in than money going out. Like if you spend 1 cent and make 2 cents, boom, you're in business. Right. You got to put it on scale.
So simple.
you got to put it on scale, obviously. Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's another. I was 40 years old when I first realized. I've been running this business for 10 years. I was 10 years into the business when I first realized, oh, that's what's on my profit and loss statement. Like
it's literally in the title.
Yeah, right. But like, I'd still look at the numbers and be like,
yeah,
none, this doesn't make sense to me.
That's because automatically we see all those super fancy business forums and we go, oh my God, that's business stuff.
Yeah. But like now I'm like, how did, like, I like, and then I said that to people thinking, oh my God, like, this is me just like catching up where everyone else is like, on top of this thing. And so I started to say it to people like, oh, I just figured out what my profit and loss statement is, thinking people would be like, oh my God, how did you run your business without that? But what I got, I would say 90% of the time was like, yeah, I don't look at that.
Yeah, no, because it's scary. The second we start talking numbers and looking at forms and all of that, like, and the taxes are just, oh my God, a whole nother level. But yeah, that can be so intimidating.
But it's like, it's everything at the same time.
It is.
I mean, that is your business, that document. There's other documents, but like that is a very important one. So if you're the business owner listening to this, doesn't look at that, don't feel bad, because you'll probably like me. ATA's been going for 10 years. But like, what I will tell you to listeners is that when I figured that stuff out, like it was a game changer for everything. But when thinking about day training or any other training, like money's going to exchange hands when value exceeds price, really. And I think it's making sense to me logically, and I've had all of 5 minutes to think about this, but it's making sense to me logically that there's stigma around it because of the value that's being offered. But it makes me think about the marketing of our community often is that, we're kind of marketing for two people a lot of the time. I think we're marketing for our customers, which really is like, if you from a business perspective, that's what the business cares about. But we're also marketing to our peers. Like, we like
Mhm.
want to like talk about how kind we are and what methods we use. But like our customers, our general average dog owner customer doesn't care about that. I don't think they care about not being embarrassed when their friends come over.
Correct. They care about results. Your client is results driven. But the comment that we're marketing for our peers is one that should not be offhanded either, because our peers are the ones that are recommending us. So if your peers in your local community are veterinarians, vet techs, they are dog nerds that have, they're the person that people go to with dog questions. Those are the people that you're marketing for, because those are the people that are going to be referring clients to you. And so that is a huge chunk of what your marketing should be, because when your friend that has 5 dogs because they do dog sports, their neighbor goes, hey, I know you really know dogs. I'm having the troubles with this dog, or I got a new puppy. I need puppy classes. They need to be the ones that are recommending to you. And so those are the people that you should be looking after. And this is why I always tell people, get involved in dog sports, because that's how you grow your professional network. And all dog sport people are known as the crazy dog lady or person in their neighborhood. And they're the one that people go to when they have a doodle that won't stop peeing in the house, right? And so those are the people that you should be marketing towards, not just each individual client, because those are the ones that are referring those clients to you.
Yeah, that's a really helpful perspective. I was nearly 42 years old when I realized that for the first time, which was right now. You might, but it also makes me think of websites that have like for trainers for pet owners. And it makes me think about, like, I'm always trying to think, like, when I'm thinking about how to communicate something to someone, it has to pass. Have you heard of the grunt test?
I have
It's like
not.
it's like you're a caveman and you got to look at someone's website and go, oh, Sarah, oh, dog training, oh, click here, book appointment. Like you
I
need
need
it
to
to
do
be
the
like,
grunt test on my website then to make sure.
you need it to be like someone could look at that real quick. Because
Yeah,
there's that saying as well, like if your website's like your brochure, like people have like got like 5 seconds or something before, if people are confused, they'll leave.
right.
So like you want someone to go, dog training, positive or whatever, solve problem. But
I
the
love that so much. I'm going to look at that from now on. But it's real, right? Because now that I have a kid and I'm running a business and I've got my 10 dogs and my life is massively overwhelming every second of the day, and I'm looking up something, it's like the first one that pops up on Google. If I'm looking for right now, I'm trying to plan our team holiday party. So we're doing a craft night at one of the local craft class places. And so I literally Googled craft classes. The first one that came up, I'm like, great, that sounds great. Shot them an email. I'm like, hey, this is what I need. Like literally that fast. I tried looking on their website. I got massively confused. And I'm just like, I'm just going to shoot them an email, hope for the best.
Yeah, and so there's I through my background in the zoological industry learned a lot about storytelling and how with the visitors that come to our park, we've got to tell them a story. They've got to be part of that story. But that's much more engaging than telling people facts. This is a
Mm.
penguin. It lives here. It eats this. It lives this long. It's in trouble. We need to save it.
I mean, as a person with my mental abilities, the facts are all I want to see. I'm like, don't give me the
Yeah,
story. I just
right.
want the facts.
Yeah, so obviously there's different listeners. But it was funny. Like we did a survey at one zoo, and there was 3 messages that we gave the visitors, and they were reduce, reuse, recycle, keep your cats in at night, and what was that one? Buy sustainable timber, and we had like a specific.
Those are all very on brand for New Zealand, by the way.
And it's funny. We sent this survey out, and then what we said, like, what are the messages, and one of them was like save the gorillas, and like the amount of people that said one of our messages was to save the gorillas, and this zoo that I went to didn't even have gorillas, and like we didn't talk about gorillas, but like the one of the takeaways, and obviously it's a single data point, but one of the takeaways was the complexities of giving information across to visitors because of the variety of reasons that people visit those facilities as well. And for the average person, that's not on the end of the bell curve like you are, Sarah. Like I think facts kind of can get lost, and even facts get added. But then I think about marketing as well from like a story perspective, and like you've got to invite the customers into that story as well, and it has to be about them. And you've really got me thinking about the like how to use words, because you can have a really pretty website and have like a beautiful picture of a dog and a great happy atmosphere, but like if the words are like confusing, then you lose. I think if you confuse, you lose. It's a logo from a organization that I follow, and so I think you need to talk to those, and you tell me those problems. Do you do that? I mean, you talked a little bit about how you kind of communicate this to potential clients, but the problems I'm understanding from what you've said so far, a big one that you solve is time. Like, I don't have time.
Right. And part of that too is the willingness to take the time to learn about, especially about the words, like you mentioned. People don't want to go and like, I feel like a lot of the buzzwords we use in the training industry are created for our peers. They're not created for clients. They're a way for us to communicate to each other, whether those buzzwords are correctly used or not, and well-defined and universally defined is a whole nother thing. But typically I try to stay away from them just for the certain point, especially under the Happy Dog Lodge hat, because they're not looking for positive reinforcement training. They're not looking for modern whatever. They're not looking for any of that stuff. They're looking for dog training that works and is worth it for them to do. And so I don't use buzzwords like that. I say, hey, here's our training, here's our stay and learn program, here's what that means, here's what day school is, and that's it. And if they want to have conversations, because you definitely do have clients that want to have conversations about methods and methodologies, I am 110% willing to have those conversations on an individual basis. But most of your clients don't want to have those conversations. They just want to make sure you know what you're talking about and that your methods are going to work. Heck, I would even argue that most of them don't even care if it's kind to the dog these days, honestly, at least in my neck of the woods. And so your job is to convince them, yep, I know what I'm talking about. I've done this before. I am an expert in this industry. And this is what we're going to do. And that's it. Be confident in what you're saying. And that's going to bring out that confidence, right? And if you're confident in that and you're not just trying to throw lingos and definitions at them, they're going to be confident in your ability to handle the situation and they're going to become your client. But if I start saying, I'm positive reinforcement, those other companies are not, and this is like the biggest thing that I try to communicate to people as dog trainers and that are just getting off getting started in this industry is to just focus on what you can do and don't worry about the rest of that. We just went and swapped our daycare that our daughter was at. And we toured 2 different daycares. And the first one, we walked in and she goes, well, this is what we do. And none of the other daycares do this. And all of these other daycares. And where did you come from? Oh, yeah, I absolutely understand that they were awful then. And all they had to do, they were just sitting there talking down on everybody else and everybody else's methods and their facilities and their owners and all of this. And there's no way I'm putting my kid in an environment where the staff just sits there and talks down about everybody to anybody that walks in the door. Like, that's not okay. The second place we toured focused on what they do. They focused on talking about their team. They focused on what they could offer us. And they focused on a positive thing. And they asked what our problems were at our last daycare and why we're leaving. And instead of bashing that daycare, they said, oh, this is how we would solve that problem. And this is how we would handle that. And that's all I cared about. I didn't care about the opinions on the place we were leaving, or their opinions on anything else. Like, I don't care. And all that makes me do is not trust what they're saying, because if they spend more time and energy talking about how horrible everybody else is, that's not showing me their expertise and what they would do. And so as a dog trainer, it's the same thing. I don't need to convince somebody why positive reinforcement is better. I need to convince them why I am the expert in my field and that they should trust me and know that I know what I'm doing, regardless of the method I am teaching.
I love it. It falls into it's such an important part of the storytelling. And this is how I'm filtering what you're saying, is that in the story we're telling our potential customers. our clients, who we want to provide value for, is that they are the hero of the story. Like, you are the hero. Like, this is about you. It's not about me. It's about you. And the hero is often like the weakest character in the story. Like, they're the ones who don't know how to solve their problems, and but they need a guide, they need a mentor, and every good story like has a guide that comes in and gives them the plan. But they need their guide because they don't know their guide. You're just like, oh yeah, well, like, who are you? But you said some really smart things there. I think, like, you need to say, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. You need, and the word, I use the word authority, and I do so knowing that there's stigma probably around that word as well. But you
Expert.
need to
You're the
say,
expert.
yeah, you're the
In that,
expert.
not, yep.
Do you find and then back to like the potential reasons why there's some stigma with some individuals around board and train facilities. Part of that's probably the wordage, the word use that others who lean on different ethical frameworks in their training use, like, we will solve this in blah blah blah. I mean, from a customer's perspective, like, if you have a problem, whether it's animal training or something else, if someone's like, I will fix this for you by then, like, you're gonna be like, cool, this is appealing to me. I want this.
And yeah, from a consumer perspective, absolutely. I would, if I didn't know better, I'd go with the person that guarantees results. And that sounds super, super nice. However, then it's our job as the expert in dog training to communicate that dogs are animals and nothing is a linear progression and things do need to be maintained. And I think that is part of the communication that is often lost. We're not guaranteeing that the problem is 100% solved after 3 weeks. I am guaranteeing that I have a foundation of training set and a training plan moving forward that you will be capable of completing. That is my guarantee. And if we don't get there, then I explain why. And I provide follow-up options on how we can get to the point where the client will be able to take over and maintain that training. I know from looking at and researching my competitors that maintenance isn't talked about when it comes to dog training. And I feel like that is a huge part of this education that needs to be provided by the experts. So that would be us, right? And if we just talk about it as, yeah, they're dogs, it needs to be maintained. You have to continue to reinforce. Some behaviors need more maintenance than others, and we don't know what that maintenance is going to be until we get further in the training. But it's our jobs to make sure we're communicating that to our clients. And again, we don't need to talk about the methods or anything like that, or our competitors or anything along those lines to help convey that point. We just have to be the expert, the authority, and tell them that it does need to be maintained.
Yeah, and a couple of caveats. Definitely in no way, shape, or form suggesting anyone should change their wording to get customers to guarantee that we're going to fix things in X amount of time. And secondly, it's hard. This is hard. Like, it's easy, I think, to listen to inspirational things like this and be like, oh yeah, cool. Like, I'm going to go change my wording on my website. Then you do, and you put it up, nothing changes, and you've got no data. You've got no data of like what people were doing on your website before you made these changes and what people are doing on your website after these made these changes. And you can get that data. You can implement heat maps, for example, which kind of show you where customers and what they're doing when they land on your page. But I mean, that, like, how the frick do you implement a heat map? Like, I mean, that's another whole skill. Like,
That's
it's
a
hard.
whole section I have not explored. I am bad with data. I don't look at my data. I just go off of vibes. So definitely an area of my business that, especially now that I'm looking at building our training programs, specifically group classes, I'm going to be pulling those numbers and paying more attention to them, because as I make these changes, I want to make sure that they're benefiting and that it's not just the vibes that are good.
Yeah, and also on that note, like, I don't think you need to be good at it. Like, you can be, but like, also, we a skill to learn as business owners, and as you're talking about having 10, 11 employees, which for New Zealand is a decent sized business, Sarah. We're on a very smaller scale than you guys are over there, but you want to stay focused depending on who you are. So often people want to stay focused, and it's good to stay focused on what you do well. So at Animal Training Academy, I liked in the past 2 weeks we had a problem, and I could put that to one of our team members, and they could bring me all of the data from what they're seeing from all of the data sources that I don't even understand. But then they can be, I think we should do this because of that data.
Right.
But I know we've done marketing like lessons in our academy before, and it's inspiring. But I also know that people will go change their websites based on that, and I think it takes a while, like to really articulate your individual clients' problems,
Well,
especially when you're
it's
board and
like dog
training.
training, right? We can't just change one thing and then magically have a fix. We have to look at it as an overall thing, business, and it's not just a one tweak, but often with our dogs, even we have to do a whole lifestyle change, management change. We have to change routines, maybe add in some outside help, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, just changing your website's not going to get you where you want to be.
I'm notorious now at saying we're going to talk about something and then just going off on random tangents. We're talking about word uses. So I appreciate the graciousness of my guests for allowing me to do that. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in with us. We have nearly reached the end of this episode. There is a question we love to ask our guests before they finish. And I love asking this question because we have guests from all around the world in all different industries, working with all different species. And what we've found over time is they're generally speaking all saying the same thing about how we want to do it in their own voice and with their own perspective. So I don't think we've had the perspective of a disc champion turn board and train mother of a young child before. So Sarah, what would you like to see happen in our industry over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think I would want to see more collaboration and understanding of all dog trainers, regardless of methodology.
And what are your like top one thing you think we can do, the listeners of the show can do to move the needle in that direction?
I think just knowing that the majority of us are speaking the same language, that we are in it for the same reasons. And yeah, there's outliers. There's people on both ends of the spectrum that are extremists. And that's unfortunate. But the majority of us live somewhere in the middle of that spectrum, of that dog training methodology spectrum. And knowing that even if you don't like somebody's entire training package and all the tools that they use, it does not mean and does not discount their ability and their skills in other areas. And so I think that being comfortable learning from people that don't always train exactly the way you do, and going out to different club events and joining sports and getting involved in the competitive dog sport world, even if you don't want to, just go watch, will really help open people's eyes that, yeah, we are a lot more alike than we think we are.
I love it. Makes me think about something someone said the other day that they were talking about road rage, and they were talking about, they started by saying, I experienced road rage, but like how different that behavior is compared to if you're face to face with someone. So they shared that they cut someone off. They're fully in the wrong, and this person's like cussing them out and yelling at them and pointing certain fingers up in the air in that direction. And they got out and then they went over and they're like, really sorry, man. Like, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And like the person was shocked, firstly, but then they just had a conversation and they got on really nicely. And I think what you're saying is really important in 2025 as we contemplate that in our industry and online, not just in dog training, but in general, with different views about lots of different things in 2025 proliferated by social media, and how coming face to face or going to events, like you say, can get you to go, oh, they're human. They care.
We all love dogs.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for geeking out on the business side of things, the uncomfortable side of making what we do sustainable and ultimately by doing that, helping as many dogs as we can. We're going to help more dogs if we're doing this for 20 years than if we burn out in 5. So thank you for sharing everything with us today, Sara, and thanks for being on 2 episodes with us here at Animal Training Academy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you again so much for having me.
And thank you so much for listening as well. This is your host, Ryan Cartlidge, signing off from this episode of the Animal Training Academy podcast show. We hope today's conversation inspired you and equipped you with new tools for your trainer's toolbox. Remember, every challenge in training is an opportunity to learn and sharpen your animal training geekery. Embrace the rough patches, learn from them, and keep improving. And don't forget, the path to growing your skills and expanding your knowledge continues beyond this episode. Visit www.atamember.com to join our supportive membership, where you will find a community of trainers just like you. Together, we're making a huge positive difference in the lives of animal and human learners worldwide. Until next time, keep honing your skills, stay awesome, and remember, every interaction with an animal or human learner is your opportunity to create ripples. We're here cheering you on every step of the way. See you at the next episode.